Hello, everybody, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 22 of A Conversation with Cometan. Today, I'm coming to you with a brilliant interview that Giulio Prisco did on me, so that's a bit of a different episode this time. And we primarily discussed the metaphysics of astronism, which is a topic that I haven't delved too deeply into yet. So I'm glad that Giulio offered to interview me on this topic. One thing I would just like to say before we get into it is that in parts of the interview, it comes up that some of astronism's ideas are similar to what has come before. And during the interview, I spoke to Giulio about my idea about scope, pushing humanity towards transcension, because it's our destiny, of course. And that's the reason why I believe that the ideas, similar general ideas, have emerged in my brain without realizing that those ideas already existed elsewhere. Now, what I would like to say is, just on my reflection of the interview today, is that, yes, of course, some of the general ideas of astronism do have pre-astronist origins. However, what people should notice is that, yes, the general ideas are similar, but when you sort of uncover those and go deeper, that's where the unique contributions of myself and astronism emerge, and that is my and astronism's contribution to the field as a whole. So I just wanted to say that the general ideas like transcension, for example, yes, they do have some origins pre-astronism, but that when you begin to delve into that concept of transcension as it is presented in astronism, there are many unique contributions that are made. I just didn't want it to come across as though astronism hasn't made any new contributions. It has. And I think that as time goes on and as understanding of astronism increases, I think that those unique contributions will emerge. So enough from me. Let's begin the interview, and I hope that you enjoy this episode 22 of season 3 of A Conversation with Cometan. So, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today, obviously, I'm joined again by Giulio Prisco, who I've spoken to quite a few times now, and I think today our conversation will focus more on Giulio asking me questions. I'm hoping to try and kind of answer some of the things that may seem unclear about astronism, but also my own positions on some of the topics that we have mutual, interest in. Space, religion, philosophy, all these great subjects. So hi, Giulio, and thanks for joining me again.
Hi, Cometan, and thank you very much for having me. Yes, in fact, I enjoyed a lot our last conversation.
Yes.
On eschatology, the ultimate destiny of humanity, expansion into space to the stars and beyond,
Yes.
Deep metaphysics. And of course, we also discussed the things having to do with eschatology in the sense of universal resurrection.
Yes.
I talked a lot. So I talked a lot about what I think.
Yeah.
Why are we here for? what is this that we are supposed to accomplish in the universe, and of course, what happens to us as individuals after that.
Yeah.
Now, there is one thing that I want to say first, that there are very philosophically sophisticated ways of asking and answering these questions.
Yes.
For example, it is kind of evident that when a person dies, he, in some sense, goes back to the universe.
Yes.
Which is a whole. This is what science says. Yes. And this is enough for some people, especially in Eastern cultures. At the same time, this idea of being like droplets of water that come from the ocean, stay a little bit in the air and then go back into the ocean where they came from, doesn't sound very satisfying, emotionally satisfying, and also intellectually satisfying to most people in our Western culture. Now, Western culture is where I come from, is where you come from. So that, to me, at least, in the course of developing some metaphysical ideas about eschatology, it is important, nonetheless, to continue offering people hope in some kind, and I underline some kind of individual continuation of life in some kind of afterlife. Now, I did have, I didn't really understand very well what's your point of view about that. I mean, you say a lot of beautiful things about, achieving a mental state in which you feel one with the universe, identifying with the universe, and all that. And all that is very beautiful. You're not the first to say all that, but you say it beautifully. At the same time, the question, what the fuck happens to me, myself, this individual after death? I didn't really hear a simple answer to that question. Now, since I think is it is important, but especially it's a question that everyone asks, and people are attracted to religion, especially because it offers some kind of answers to this kind of questions. Yes. So I do look forward to finding out what you think. What's your point of view?
Yes, of course. And obviously, as I carry on with my philosophical explorations, you could say, hopefully things will become more and more clear, even to me in my own brain, because obviously I asked that question of myself as well. I think that to begin, from the astronist perspective, which is the perspective that I am coming from, I see afterlife and the definition, and again, definitions will come into this. There could be many interpretations of what an afterlife constitutes, but my approach is to bring outer space into the center of these ideas that we traditionally associate with a what would you say, a realm beyond this existence here. I see the afterlife as integral to the astronomical. I call it the astronomical world. I call it outer space, astronomical world. It's the same thing for me. I think that when we die, we go up, like many people have believed and thought for thousands of years. I mean, the idea that we ascend to somewhere is of course implied in things like heaven, concepts like heaven. But I think it's literal. I think it's a literal raising up. And I think we go to the stars. I think that, and the reason why I believe that is because I see the astronomical world as possessing a metaphysical dimension to it that allows our metaphysical self, our soul or spirit or essence or consciousness, which we may well get onto a little bit later, that essentially the metaphysical essence of ourselves reunites with the metaphysical essence of the astronomical world up there. And I believe we go on a cosmic journey, if you will, a sort of a post-corporeal, sort of post-life journey that hopefully will eventually reunite us with some kind of divinity or some kind of ultimate or some type of ultimate condition, if you will, because I don't want to go too rambling on, but I fundamentally see us as limited. I see the world as humanity, the whole cosmos as fundamentally limited. And the goal of astronism is to get humanity out of this limitation. It's to alleviate us. And that's why I keep going on about going up to the stars, because I believe that is where we will get rid of all these limitations that are weighing us down and are part of our nature, it seems. But I'm going into more soteriology there rather than eschatology. But they are intertwined, they are intertwined. But if we just keep it to the individual, yes, I believe that after we die, the afterlife is very much intertwined with the astronomical world, with outer space. And I'm sure you might have some questions at this point.
Yeah, well, so far, you didn't say anything that I disagree with.
Okay.
But let's, you say that after that, we go on a cosmic journey. Now, the question that comes to mind is who is a we? Is it we ourselves a continuation in an acceptable continuation of the physical individuals that are alive here and now? And intertwined to this question have, of course, this being that goes on a cosmic journey, does he have the same memories and feelings that I have now? Does he retain any awareness of this current life?
Yes.
You can, how to say that, depending on what you identify with, you can be very different persons. Now, if I only identify with the universe at large, then perhaps I would still be an individual stream of consciousness, yes, of course, but it will be a very different one from the stream of consciousness that I am embodying right now. So all this is the continuity aspects. We will come to the discontinuity aspect later, but what do you have to say about that? Is there still an I myself on this cosmic journey?
Yes, I think so, because, and it relates.
Do I remember things? Do I remember my wife? Do I remember my dog? Do I remember my friends? Do I remember this world?
Yes, because what the release of the soul from the body is a transition. It is a transformation of, you could say it's kind of trapped within us in a way. It's kind of trapped within our physical selves, and then it's being released. But we take with us this consciousness. We take with us our lives, our memories, yes. it is essential that we do that, because I believe this journey that I'm talking about is a kind of continuation, in a way, of the endeavor to release ourselves from this limited state, in a sense. So I still see the soul or consciousness as limited, even after it's been released from the body, which is a very it's quite an alternative kind of view, because majority of people see the soul as something that is limitless, that is immortal, or that is that is transcended sort of our physical limited state. I don't agree with that. I think that the soul, or the consciousness after death, is still in a limited state, and the reason why I believe that is because I believe that the soul is still inside the cosmos, and so therefore, because I believe that everything in the cosmos is limited, whether that be metaphysical or physical, I must therefore believe that the soul as well, and our consciousness, remains limited. Now, the big question for me in astronism, and the big question that I think our expansion into outer space will eventually answer, is, can we escape the cosmos? That is the ultimate thing for me. Can we get across that periphery, that whatever, that expanding? I mean, some scientists have said, well, it's not even expanding. It's not even the right way to put that across, that that the universe is not actually expanding. It's doing something else, but they're not maybe not quite sure yet. I want to know whatever's beyond that. Do you know what I mean? And I see whatever is beyond that as beyond limitation, as infinite, as universal. And I don't believe just when the body dies that the soul gets out of the cosmos. Do you know what I mean? It seems
Yes,
to work well with my brain.
I understand. And as you were speaking, I was thinking of the masterpiece Star Maker by Ola Stapleton. Are you familiar with it?
Yes.
Right. And well, you see that what you have described is exactly the same cosmic journey of a being that starts as a very limited being,
yes,
but gradually, in the course of his cosmic adventures, becomes less and less limited, until the point where, after a journey of billions of years and contacts with many galactic and intergalactic civilization of ascending orders of mentality, at the very end, this limited being find himself able to interact with the Star Maker, and the Star Maker could be another way of seeing your metaphor of transcending the universe. So I just wanted you to confirm that my impression is right, that what you're talking of is something very similar to Stapleton's vision.
I think it's in the same arena, it's in the same ballpark, but I think that there'll always be different astronist contributions to this idea. There'll always be, and that's because ideas move on, and hopefully I will and continue to contribute new ideas to this through astronism. But yes, it is a journey for me, I think, of salvation as well. I think that I associate the idea of salvation with reaching transcending, or we call it transcosmization, to use astronist terminology. And again, that can be difficult as well when we use different terminology and not sure if it actually means the same thing. No, I think it does mean the same thing. I think it's all just trying to understand why we're here in that sense, but also what condition we can reach. That's what astronism kind of puts the gauntlet down. That's what astronism is trying to do. It's putting the gauntlet down. It's saying to humanity, what is the optimum condition? What is the ultimate condition you can reach?
Okay, but let's postpone that for a while.
Yes.
And let's stay near the beginning.
The individual. Okay? Yeah.
Now, the thing is that someone dies.
Mm-hmm.
The matter that forms his body starts to disorganize.
Yeah.
The measurable mental activity stops, and all these things happen that we know. In spite of that, many people and all religions in the past thought that something survives and moves on this cosmic journey. Now, I know that you don't come from a hard science background. That is more my department than yours. Mm-hmm. But I'm kind of curious on whether you have some rough idea of how that can be physically possible.
Cool. Well, I suppose what we are trying to do there is we're trying to answer a metaphysical problem with a physical solution, or a physical suggestion, which is difficult. It is very, very difficult, because we're talking about two things that have two different natures, I suppose. I think what it kind of comes down to is, you could say dualism maybe is a suggestion.
Dualism.
Dualism. The idea that if the physical exists, there must also be a non-physical. But also, I think that when we die and the soul releases from this sort of trapped state that we are in, I still believe it's in the cosmos, but so it's still subject to our same laws, you could say, our same limited laws, but it is not obviously visible. It is not, you can't touch it, you can't smell it. It is not perceivable by the human senses.
Okay, but hold on. This does not sound like dualism to me.
Right, okay.
It very much sounds like monism, in the sense that, well, it's not visible, not detectable by our senses, perhaps not even certainly not detectable by our current scientific instrumentations. But since it's in the cosmos, it is still very much in the physical universe, and perhaps it could be detectable by future senses or future scientific instrumentations. Or is it something that is completely out of this world? Because that will be a dualist description, I believe.
Yeah, I think I was applying dualism in the sense, not in maybe the broader philosophical sense, more in a kind of trying to apply a dichotomy, maybe was the better term there. The idea of there must be this, so then there must be another. There must be, if there's physical, then there must be metaphysical. I think maybe dichotomy might have been the better term to use there. But no, I think that it still stays within this universe, in this cosmos, which obviously means it's limited. But then I've had experiences in my life, and also I've had experiences, I've been told experiences, read about experiences from other individuals who have either seen something like a ghost, for example, or have witnessed something, have had a vision of some kind that is not that is kind of the metaphysical coming into the physical realm. Now, that is what needs to be, in a way, kind of studied in a way. I mean, you could say that paranormal investigators try and do that, or something, you know, along those lines, and they've maybe debunked a lot of ghost sightings and things like that. But I kind of don't want to get down that road, because that, in a sense, then you're talking about spirit in a way, rather spiritualism, rather than some of the more traditionally transhumanist sort of areas, like consciousness. I think we have to define maybe what the difference is between the soul, the spirit, consciousness, essence. It seems to be there's lots of different concepts and terminology, isn't there? For, I mean, are we all talking about the same thing? I mean, I tend to focus more on the idea of consciousness, and maybe
it's important to clarify.
Yes.
What we mean by the words that we say. I believe no.
Yeah.
Coming to my own position, I'm definitely not a dualist. I do sympathize very much with this position called neutral monism, which was advanced by Bertrand Russell, among others. Things that you know, both matter and the mind are ways to see something else which lies beneath both matter and mind.
Yes.
And so both matter and mind are manifestation of some aspects of physical reality, which perhaps we don't understand yet, but perhaps we will understand in the future. And within this framework, then it becomes interesting to speculate. Well, we cannot answer these kind of questions right now, not at our current level of scientific advancement. But you know, perhaps some of the ideas that have been put forward have something to do with reality. And for example, one of my Bibles, you know, I have many Bibles besides what we usually call the Bible. One of the books that I consider like a Bible is this book called Indistinguishable from Magic by Robert Forward. I do recommend that to you and to the viewers very much. Now, at some point, close to the end of the book, Forward tries to embark in some wild speculations on how these things can happen. And he's talking of both paranormal phenomena and survival after death. And he imagined some kind of imprint of the human mind into the gravitational field. And I suppose that he would be talking a lot, if you were alive now, you'll be saying things like imprint of the human mind onto quantum fields and strings, all these things that physicists believe may constitute the fundamental bedrock of reality. But it's not a supernatural thing, it's a physical thing. Somehow, what you are, what you have been thinking, managed to imprint itself onto the very fabric of physical reality. And that imprint is something that has its own kind of consciousness. And after physical death, it kind of detaches itself from the physical body and moves on this thing that you call the journey. This comes very close to what I think. And is that also your case?
Yes, it is, definitely, yeah. I think that the way sometimes I put my ideas across is more, you could say, religious, in a sense, more akin to a religion, because obviously I'm promoting astronism as that. But yeah, certainly, I agree with that, and I think that we all have this capacity to, yeah, imprint, but also, I don't know, reach maybe the highest point of our ourselves. I mean, you're not the same person as you were when you were a small child, and sometimes I think about that in the sense of where is all that gone? Do you know what I mean? Where is that that information gone? And is that still, is that imprinted in the universe somewhere, in the cosmos somewhere? And does it come down to information? Is that what it comes down to? Just information? And is that the same as consciousness though? Can you still, my belief is that after you die, you can still, in a way, you can still manipulate, I don't want to say think, because we don't have a brain, but I want to say something like
not only brains can
manipulate reality. I still think that we have the capacity to do that when we've died, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's also what I think. Now, when you make the example of the very young child that you used to be.
Yes.
Now, all that information, well, it does have a physical location in space-time at this moment. And that location is your own brain, because, you know, your own brain is still working. Yeah. And here the idea is that even when that is not the case anymore, this organized information is still able to act upon reality. And yes, that again is very much what I think.
Okay.
Great. So I think we are in complete agreement so far, in terms of you know, fundamental metaphysical position. Now, before moving to the end of the journey, I don't think we can say much about the last parts of the journey, but maybe we can say something. But staying close to Earth from time being, so there are all these individual souls. But by the way, do you use the word soul in this context, or you prefer to call it something else?
Sometimes I use the word essence. Or anima. The philosophers used to use anima, so you know, maybe use that. I think soul, I think the idea of the soul is more moralistic, isn't it? It's got that moral stain of sin kind of idea from Christianity and others. For me, that's how I interpret soul, as different from spirit. I interpret the soul as something that is morally orientated, which is generally not how a transhumanist or an astronist would see that. Is that how you would see soul? Or
it doesn't have these connotations to me.
Right.
To me, soul is a perfectly acceptable term to call this anima, spirit, information, pattern, essence. So, you know, since I consider all these things as synonymous, I do use the word soul, because, you know, a four-letter word is simpler than a five-letter word, usually. And soul is kind of understood by everyone, even if, as you very rightly say, perhaps it's not understood exactly in the same way. However, you have all these souls who live on the earth for a little while,
yes,
then move on, and so they are individual souls. I'm assuming that at least in the first part of the journey, each soul somehow retains its own individuality.
yeah,
Lots of things can happen after that, but let's do this perturbation analysis like the physicists do. At the beginning, something don't change. We are many tiny souls journeying all the way up to wherever it is that we are going. Now, do all these souls retain some ability to communicate with each other?
Yes, and also an ability to communicate with us, I believe, through the manipulation of reality. And yes, they are retaining their individuality as well. This is essential, particularly in astronism, because we have this idea of cosmosis, which is the I've mentioned it earlier, maybe, or maybe you've seen this before, the union with the cosmos idea. I think that you as an individual, and by that I mean your body and your soul, you through your life have to approximate yourself to the astronomical world. You have to immerse yourself into that in order to eventually become one with it. Now, as we've only got so much time to do that while we're here on the earth, and most of us probably won't even achieve that. I don't know if I will achieve that during my lifetime, but I believe that after we've passed away, after our essence has been released, that there is still an opportunity to do that, to unite with the astronomical world, and we do that through, we call it the manipulation of scope, which is the
manipulation of scope.
Yeah, I call it scope, which is basically just opportunity, or just opportunity, and that's the only other word I use for it, which is opportunity for transcension, opportunity to get to our ultimate condition, basically. I think that the soul or the essence maintains the work that we've done here on earth. It maintains that. It takes with it that on this journey, and it continues to work towards that ultimate condition. Just as I hope humanity will do that back here in the physical, I think that the souls of humanity are doing that, or going up towards that ultimate condition in the metaphysical. So yes, we retain our individuality, we continue to do the work to get us to the ultimate condition, and we continue, and hopefully number three is we communicate, our souls communicate with one another, and manipulate the reality here. Now, I don't want to, maybe we could get into this a bit later, but then there's the whole theological element. We've not spoken about that yet, that kind of changes the whole narrative, you could say. If there's an overarching God, has God predestined the condition? That's another
if we come
area
to these ultimate things later. I'm trying to go step by step, and don't worry, we will get there. Now, we are still not very far from the Earth in our cosmic journey, which is only a verbal cosmic journey so far. But since we are still very close to the Earth, what do you make of this concept found in most Eastern religions of souls, let's call them like that, coming back to the Earth for different lives now and then? Eastern used to think that, you know, in reincarnation, you don't retain memories of past lives, of other lives, but sometimes they say that some people do.
Yes.
So that, you know, does that concept have any place in your metaphysics?
It exists in astronism. I personally don't believe that, but astronism is huge. It wants to include all different types of ideas. So when I say that I'm speaking about astronism, I'm speaking about my kind of take on astronism. So yes, there are reincarnation ideas in astronism, definitely. And this is one of the main issues that maybe we can have, which is, well, if astronism's everything, then what is it? You know, but you could say that that is heterodox, maybe, that it's kind of on the periphery of astronism. Right. But yeah, it definitely exists. I would never. It's not part of my approach to discount an idea. I love ideas. I would never do that. I wouldn't want to say get rid of that because it doesn't fit in with my approach. So yes, it does, and we call it recosmism. We call it the idea of having another cosmism, because sometimes use the word cosmism to refer to our lifetime. So sometimes I use that in my writing where I say our cosmism, our cosmic life, our limited existence. So recosmism is coming back to another cosmos. Okay.
Great. Now let's come to this the technological version of the concept of reincarnation. It's something that I have written very much about, which is the idea that, you know, well, there is this soul, this spirit that is still somehow physically present in physical reality.
Right.
Now, suppose some kind of future extremely advanced technology is able to find this soul, and the same technology is also able to bring this soul back to the Earth in a new body that could be a biological body, virtual, robotic, ball of hot plasma, whatever, some kind of physical incarnation. The idea is to find the soul and bring it back. This is very central to my own metaphysics, at least in terms of possibility. Now, how open are you to that?
I'm open to anything that progresses what I see as the most important action, which is transcension, which is getting humanity to ultimate condition. So if you can technologically do something that will progress that, then I'm open to anything in terms of that. Yeah, but it has to progress that. It can't be regressive. It can't kind of like war to me is regressive in many ways. It destroys it's mentally narrow. It's only seeing the here and now. It doesn't look at the future and things like that. So I see things like war and conflict as things that regress transcension. Anything that doesn't progress us, really, you could include as something that's positive, you know, something that I mean, especially regarding space exploration, especially regarding reaching the edge of the cosmos and hopefully getting across the other side. So yeah, definitely, I any way that you can do that using technology is acceptable. Yeah.
Right. You know, I don't really think there is another side, but I do think that this side is much richer and much infinitely more complex than we can understand. So that you know, I think the other side is actually here. Is just difficult to reach, and maybe it's just a difference in terminology, but I don't call it the other side. I call it, you know, some hard to reach location on this side, the ultimate location. In fact, if you take ideas like, for example, the simulation hypothesis, which is a theory of the other side, which is exactly identical to traditional religion. Now, I think the simulation hypothesis can be a good metaphor, but I don't take it literally, in the sense that, you know, I think, everything happens in one single physical universe, but this single physical universe is so complicated that you can have different layers of reality. You can have different worlds, for example, in the average sense and so on. So that, you know, I never talk of the other side.
Yes.
I stay on this side, but I do have equivalent concepts.
I think there's a difference. So, yeah. Sorry. Carry on.
No, I was just saying that now it seems the right moment to start talking of what happens near the end of the journey. No, let's move to the middle of the journey first. Okay. So we said what happens after we leave Earth. This, you know, somehow the soul imprinting itself onto the fabric of reality, a possibility to communication between different souls, and the possibility of communication between souls and human beings on Earth, possibility of some kind of reincarnation. Now, I'm assuming that you know, this doesn't happen only to us, in your view, but it does happen to billions and billions of other civilizations in the universe, some of which will be incredibly more advanced than us. I do hope there will be some sort of contact before we all reach the ultimate stage.
Yes, I do as well, and I believe there will be, because I believe that there is an abundance of life in the cosmos. So yes, I do think that there will be. I'm more optimistic than perhaps other people would be about contacting other sapient beings, and that is also included as part of the Astronist eschatology, is sharing our information with other sapient beings if they are willing to, and also benefiting, maybe combining our campaigns together to get to the ultimate.
Right. Great.
Just that one point though about the cosmology. I think there was just a difference in cosmology. The Astronist cosmology kind of follows is it called the bubble? It's like the bubble in scientific theory. Is it the bubble?
Bubble universe, like in inflationary multiverse.
Yes, something along those lines, where there's different. I believe that there are an infinite amount of limited cosmoses, basically, within an infinite universe. That's essential, and that they're all expanding, and that we're just in one of those, basically.
It's a concept found in this scientific theory called inflationary cosmology. Which it does make a lot of sense. to me at least. But here again, it's part of what I meant by a concept of one extremely big, rich, and complex reality within which you can have different separate world-like realities. So this concept includes includes simulation hypothesis, includes inflationary cosmology, also includes string theory, these multiple parallel brain worlds, and also includes the many worlds of quantum physics. By the way, there is a great book by Brian Greene where he summarizes all the concepts that of multiple worlds that have been proposed so far. I think it's called the Hidden Universe or something like that.
Right.
Is good. And I think we live in one reality within which there can be all these things.
Yes, but I don't believe that we can contact or engage with any other cosmos until we've gone through this change of our nature. I think in order to get into, so I make a distinction between the cosmos and the universe. I see the cosmos is limited, which is what we are imposed, what is imposed upon us, this limitation. And then the universe I see as something that is infinite. So in order for something to exist in the universe, it must share that infinite nature, that limitless nature. That is a nature that we don't have. And so therefore, in order to get from one cosmos to another cosmos, you
must go through the bigger,
you must go through the universe. And so therefore you must be infinite. If you can you imagine us, and this is what I came to, we couldn't exist in an infinite realm, just me and you, could we? You know, it doesn't seem possible to me that we could exist in an infinite realm. Is that, have you thought about that before?
Yes, it depends on who is we.
I mean, just you now.
Ourselves, you and me right now, I think no. But I hope we will become something which is able to. And I think you don't disagree on that.
No, yeah, and that's what the goal of astronism is, and maybe movements as well. It's trying to get to basically altering humanity's nature, really, transforming our nature. And the ways we do that, we might differ, but we all have that goal. Yeah.
Great. Now we are very close to the end of the hour. Let's move to the end of the journey, transcendence, ultimate reality. What is the? By the way, I wanted to make a point. When you made the difference between how you use the word cosmos and how you use the word universe, the fun thing is that I tend to do the other way around. That I tend to use a universe for something smaller and cosmos for something bigger, which includes all universes. That perhaps the professional deformation of a physicist who has had lots of theories about multiple universes. So since cosmos is not very much used in physicist jargon, then I reserve cosmos to think of something bigger than any single universe. However, let's talk of this big thing.
Yes. The ultimate condition. Well, I call it ultimation, or there's lots of different terms that I apply to this to try to understand it. I think that ultimately at this stage, not much can be said about what it's about what this is, about what our ultimate condition could be. Number one, we've got to do so much in order to get to this, that whether it will happen at all is, again, the odds are against us, really. I mean, we have limited time, we have limited resources, we have limited ability. We have limited everything to try and get to a condition that is unlimited, that is ultimate, that is beyond us in every way. And again, maybe that's where the idea of astronism as a religion has to come in, because it has to be built on faith that we will get there, belief that we will do this. Also, I think that the idea of transcension, which is the journey that we are on from now until we get to this ultimate condition, I think that interpreting transcension as a form of salvation is important, because humans like a reward. Humans do a lot of things to think about things as a reward. Do you know what I mean? That we if we know that we're going to get something at the end of it, then we will fight and we will do it and we will try our best. And so that's why I've brought in this idea of salvation into the mix, which is obviously more of a religious idea, really, being saved, being redeemed from, you know, our little selves here, our limited existence. But this ultimate condition, really, you could say there's two interpretations. There's the ultimate condition that we can reach, that we will reach, and then there's the ultimate condition that is possible for other species, which may get further along this process than what we do. Then maybe this ultimate condition is God, is what we should be calling God. Now, I don't believe in a anthropomorphized God, so I don't believe that God judges. I don't believe that God, that God has a face or anything like that. But I do believe God could be a status, a condition, maybe a plane, maybe, of existence. And that's what I think this transcension is trying to get up to. But this is at the furthest reaches of astronism at this stage. It's the furthest point, and it's not something, I mean, I do mention it, but I don't talk about it a lot, because not to everyday people, because just to get the idea into the head that it's the astronomical world that we need to be going up to, and that's what we need to be focusing on, that's enough at this stage for the majority of people to try to accept.
Let me say that I very much disagree.
Okay.
And just take this as just the advice of someone who unfortunately happens to be older than you. In case yes, in some sense, a more proximate objective, like, achieving some kind of unity with the cosmos should be more appealing.
Yes.
That a more complex objective, like, all these things that we're saying about God. But people also value familiarity. Now, it so happens, maybe it's a historical accident, but it so happens that many people, as a matter of fact, most people, are already thinking of the concept of ultimate God, because they heard it from their religion, whatever that happens to be, Christianity or Islam or Hinduism. They are quite likely to have heard that already. And so it becomes not less, but more simple for people to relate to the end of the journey rather than to the beginning. You know, knowing how difficult it is to persuade people of something, you know, in terms of this just marketing strategy.
Yes.
My advice to you would be to insist also on these things, because this is a language that most people are already familiar with.
Yeah.
And saying these things, you'll be saying something that most people want to hear.
Yes.
You see. Yeah. Now, having said that, let's come back to what you say, that God is not a human being. I completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
He's not an anthropomorphic God. It doesn't have a face. And also here, I completely, of course, God doesn't have a face. But since God is much, whatever God is much more than us. Mm-hmm. So that I think that even though God doesn't have a face, God can choose to show us a face if God wants to.
Okay. Yes.
And you know, this to me is a bridge to the idea of a personal God that many people want to have. I believe it was C.S. Lewis who said first that you know, God is not a personal God, but not in the sense that God is something less than personal. On the contrary, in the sense that God is something much more, infinitely more than personal, and so much more than us that, you know, he can choose to. I mean, he could choose to talk to you using my face and my voice. Yeah. He could choose to talk to me using your face and your voice. Maybe that's exactly what God is doing now.
Yes.
And that would be a way to bring our ideas, which you know, are not very much germane to traditional religion, but is one of the ways in which we can formulate our ideas in a way that is appealing to traditional believers. And that is something very important for me.
Yeah, it is. And I think that as time goes on, hopefully I'll be able to present astronism in a way that maybe is more relatable for people, because the endeavor of transcension that I focus on isn't necessarily an easy one. It's probably the hardest thing that humanity will ever have to do. People will die. People will suffer still on this journey. There will be countless deaths, and I've always said I've never made this into a utopian journey into outer space. We know that there will be deaths and suffering and evil still, because that is part of human nature. But the whole point of the process is to try to reach a condition where that won't happen anymore, where we are out of limitation, and therefore we can eliminate suffering and evil, which is again another purpose of transcension, which I try to put across as well. But yeah, I had this idea of different faces just a couple of weeks ago, because someone said to me, well, astronism has some unique ideas, but some of its fundamental ideas people have had before. You've just put new terms to it. Mm-hmm. And then I thought to myself, well, I don't know all the different authors. I grew up very sheltered. I wasn't able to read very broadly about philosophy and religion, really, because of my background. It was only by the end of me writing my first book that I began to really explore you know, in terms of transhumanism and things. I just never come across it. So even the word transcension, someone else has used previously, but to me, but when
yes, it has. By John Smart, for example.
But when I first thought of that, when it first came across my mind, this idea of transcension, I promise I did not know that someone else had that.
But you know, your concept is more general.
Yes.
Transcension was used, for example, by John Smart in a scenario where advanced civilization at some point they become able to migrate into black holes and stay there.
Yes.
But your concept is much more general and includes this one as a special case. And many other concepts of transcension that I can think of. Also in the science fiction novels of Ian Banks, Scottish science fiction writers, you have exactly the same concept. To say that he calls it sublimation,
right?
And it means going and live into an 11-dimensional space time outside our universe. Which in some sense looks like the space-time of string theory, but it doesn't say much. Huh? He calls that sublimation. So, there have been a lot of time these concepts have been voiced. As a matter of fact, I don't think we are saying anything new at all. There have been a lot of smart people in history since thousands of years, and if you go and look, everything that we are saying has been said already, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be saying now, because if we do, then we say it with words and in a way that our contemporaries can understand perhaps better.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's also important to repackage things, to remarket things, and re-emerge ideas, add to them in whatever way you can. Of course, I've approached transcension from my perspective, my background, what I've seen of the world, my experiences so far, my mind. So there is, to me, and this kind of makes me believe in God in a way, or some kind of fate, or some kind of push. I call it scope. I call it this opportunities. I call it this kind of pushing us forward, pushing us upward, hopefully. That something is reintroducing these ideas. I see over years, over different generations, people come out with these similar ideas, and they're all kind of a bit different. They're not exactly ever the same, and they're all kind of described slightly differently. There might be different focuses, but there seems to be this push from something, especially from someone like myself who I didn't know any of these other people. I'd never read anything about this. I shouldn't even be sat here. Sometimes I think like that. Honestly, I think I shouldn't even be doing this. I should just be a Catholic lad who is from England, and I've not been brought up for this. Do you know what I mean? My brain shouldn't be thinking about these ideas,
Really, nobody has been brought up for this.
No.
It's reality is thicker than words. It's much more than words. So words cannot exhaust reality. And that's why more and more words is good, because even if someone has said similar things, you can say things in a way that illuminate one more very little tiny aspect of reality.
Yes. And again, I think also telling the story. It's the same story, but just told in a different way, isn't it? Essentially, it's the story of us going up to the stars, essentially, and what might happen when we get there, and what the possibilities could be. And that, to me,
by the way, let me ask one more hard question.
Yes.
To the stars, to the cosmos. Good. We have been only discussing metaphysics. Now, what does real physical space flight have to do with any of that?
It is, for me, it is absolutely essential. I see that this is where my concept of maybe transcension differs from other concepts, because I see that our physical transcension as influencing what's taking place in the metaphysical, and vice versa. I see those things connected still. So if we don't achieve transcension in the physical here, I don't think that the metaphysical essences that we were speaking about earlier, I don't think they can either. I think it's interconnected. I don't think that they just kind of go on and maybe could achieve it on their own. I think they're still connected to us as a species. Maybe you could broaden it out to that as a species, that we have this opportunity to transcend, but at the same time, then I also think, well, we could go extinct tomorrow. So then I think maybe the metaphysical element isn't connected. But then I always come back around to this idea that it is. No, I do. I always come back around to that idea. I think if we don't achieve transcension as a physical journey, I think it's kind of tough luck, really. I think it's kind of tough luck. I think then the metaphysical also won't achieve that. And then it'll just be the end of and then the cosmos will go on. Other species might get there. They may get to it, but humanity didn't. Humanity didn't get there, possibly.
Right.
Now, this physical journey is, of course, what I see as, now, some people have said to me, well, we're already doing space exploration. We're already doing space expansion, maybe not as quick as what we should be, but we are already doing it. So what's your problem? You know, why are you so going on about this when it is happening? Well, it is happening, but is it happening for the right reasons? Are Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and other people, NASA, are they going up to the stars for the same reason that an astronaut like myself would be going up to the stars? And maybe that's a question that they need to answer. I think just the physical going into space is not transcension. That is not transcension. The transcension also has to be, it is physical, but it also is intellectual. And also, as we've spoken about, it is metaphysical as well. But the key one there is intellectual, mental, changing our mindset. If we go to outer space, if we go to the next solar system and take our same mindset of sectarianism, of hating each other, racism, and all these horrible things, we're just going to take our problems there. We're just going to take the same limited existence to another limited existence. So I think transcension isn't just space exploration. It is doing space exploration for the things that we've been speaking about, for getting us to the ultimate condition. Yes. So that's I do you agree in that sense that just space, you could call it secular? You could call it
yes and no.
You could call it secular space exploration, couldn't you? It's space exploration for economic benefit, maybe. Or
yes and no. I agree with you that the real reason to go to space is not economic, is not for energy, it's not for military application. It is because we have to move out there. And we discussed last time. Yes. We discussed this concept, which is very important to me, which is that we will go to the planet, we will go to the stars, then we will learn more and more and more. At the end of the universe, we will become God.
Yeah.
And we will become a God which is able to reach back in time and act upon the totality of space and time, including here and now. So in some sense, there is God, a God which exists right now because we will become a God in the far future of the universe. We, together with many other civilizations, but only if we make that far. If we become extinct, then the process will go ahead without us. Yes. And we will not be contributing to the final emergence of God. And this means that the God that exists here and now does not have human aspects, because we will not be there anymore to contribute those aspects. That's why, space exploration for me is a very intensely spiritual endeavor, and that's why I am so very passionate about space exploration. But the thing is, you cannot ask all other people to share your philosophical view. So that yes, Elon Musk probably does not think very much about these things, or maybe he does, but he doesn't say so. Jeff Bezos doesn't. The NASA people don't. Chinese don't.
No.
But they are doing things to get humanity established somehow as a multiplanetary species, and that I think is valuable in itself. If we become extinct next year, imagine that the next war, because there will be a next war, is much worse than what's happening right now in Ukraine. Could be a nuclear war, could be a biological war. It could wipe humanity out. Before that happens, or before an asteroid strike, or before a much worse next pandemic, we need to put our eggs in different baskets, and we need to start becoming a multiplanetary species. That's an extremely important thing, because it's a prerequisite for all things that we have been saying. Yes. So, welcome Elon Musk, welcome Jeff Bezos, welcome Chinese, let me say a heresy now, welcome Vladimir Putin himself. Viewers, please forget that I just said that. Welcome the devil himself, if he is instrumental to get us to space, because getting out in space is what we need. So the reasons of these people are not my reasons, but they are valid reasons anyway. However, look, I will have to go in a while, but it was good to find out that your ideas are closer to mine than I thought.
Okay.
Because you don't usually say these things. I've been reading some of your writings, and you don't really insist on these things very much. I think it would be good of you to write something to summarize your metaphysical ideas, because I think that could, be a way to reach people that perhaps you are not reaching at this very moment.
Yes, I agree. I think I originally focused on the physical and then the naturalistic view, and then I've moved again. I seem to move around a lot in my thoughts, which is natural anyway. But then ultimately, I think one of the last things I wanted to speak to you about was just this idea of the escape paradox, which is the idea that I think we actually might have spoke about this before, so maybe not. Maybe we won't talk about that.
From one box into another, and then again into another. I remember talking of that in
we already spoke about that. Yeah, that's still something that's on my mind. That's why I brought it up, because it's still something I get asked about quite a lot, and it's something that I can't seem to answer that, because I suppose it's people ask that because they maybe don't see the point if all we're doing is trying to just keep escaping one reality from the next. It's kind of like running away from our problems. I don't know. Are we running away? Maybe, I don't know. Are we escaping?
No, the thing is that I have two different answers to that. First, a metaphysical one is that is one box. I mean, we divide one box into many boxes, one inside the other, but it's really one box. And we are just exploring this box. We are not escaping. And the other thing, yes, there are so many other concerns.
Yes.
Yeah. And, but, there are a lot of good things that you can do in the world, but you must want to do something. You must want, you need a reason to get out of bed in the morning.
Yes.
And, once you get out of bed, then, you do all you have to do. But, you need to be happy, because only happy people can do something to make other people happier.
Yes.
And for many people like us, we cannot be happy without at least searching for answers to these kind of questions. And that's what we do. We do that for our happiness. I do all these things for my own happiness and for having a reason to get out of bed in the morning. Now, once I do that, of course, thinking is not enough. You have to do something. And, humanity has to continue on its journey to the stars. I like to think in terms of spaceship Earth. We are all crew members of spaceship Earth. It's going to wonderful places, but it will not reach these places if the engine don't work. But not only that, also if the life support system is not working well, the crew is unhappy, there is too much tension, there is not enough entertainment. All that we can do to make everyone else on spaceship Earth happy is something that we are doing to reach these ultimate things that we are talking of, which means, I think that's a good conclusion, because it means that we have to be good people and to help others as much as we can.
You see and I love that. It's a great conclusion, but then I'm just going to add on something on the end, maybe for the next conversation, is identification, how we identify, because this is something that I think continues to be a problem, where you're a cosmist, I think, maybe, and then I'm an astronist, and then maybe you're more astronist than maybe what you thought, and maybe I'm more cosmist than maybe
I don't I don't really I'm not very much after labels. To me, you're what you have said tonight is very much a cosmist position. Okay, so what I say is an astronomist position. I don't have to call myself one thing. I call myself very things. I'm also a dog lover, because I love dogs very much. I am a fan of some football clubs.
Yes, but I suppose ultimately the way that you identify in your philosophical religious affiliation is maybe the most important label, maybe the most
yes. Really
I've had conversations.
the answer that you give really depends on who you're talking to.
Yes.
For example, if I am talking to a Christian believer who has never heard of all these things that we're discussing, not because they are stupid, because they have to do other things for a living, never had the chance to hear about these things, I would, I would just say that I'm a Christian, perhaps with some unconventional opinion, but all that would come second. I would say that I'm a Christian first. If I'm talking to a Muslim, in the same conditions, I could not say that I am a Muslim because I don't know enough about Islam to call myself a Muslim, but I would say that I am a religious believer and a student of Islam. Yeah. When I talk to transhumanists, I like to call myself a cosmist to underline some differences in worldview that I believe are important. And to other people, I could call myself something else.
I suppose that's what I need to do in a sense, or maybe I don't need to do. I don't know. Maybe that's what I need to do is within that context of the transhumanist, cosmist. What is the astronist then? What is the astronist? And maybe that's what I need to think about.
But to me, it's
just to make
good that you invent new terminology, and it's good that you popularize new terminology, and it's good that you think.
Yeah.
But I don't see very many differences between your thinking and cosmist thinking.
Maybe it's just a case of organization.
Especially after this conversation, I think that if you want to call yourself a cosmist, that would be a good label.
Yeah, but then I don't identify with that.
Right.
That doesn't I see that as a, and then you're getting into history there, but I see that as a predecessor to what I'm doing now.
Yeah,
I love that. It's great.
So you should develop the philosophy of astronomism.
Yeah, that's where I came to. That's the
right. But, what I would suggest is that you go layer by layer.
Yes.
I mean, you have written a lot of pages.
Yes.
A very big heap of pages, like, the Bible and the Quran and so Bhagavad Gita and so many other books together. But you don't have an executive summary of 10 or 20 pages. And I think you should have that. And I think that you should give that to people first.
I will.
It's not easy. It's not easy. I'm doing that myself. I'm writing a third book in which I want to say all that I said in my first book, which is big. I want to say it in a much shorter book, which is kind of an executive summary of the first one. So that, when someone asks you, well, what do you think? You just give them the book and say, here you go. Now, if they want to hear more, it's good to have something more to say, something more sophisticated, more in depth, more complex. But what I miss in astronomism is an executive summary.
Okay.
Which also mentioned, also mentions all the things that we discussed today.
Okay, I will work on that, and I will.
That's great.
I'll get that to you, and hopefully,
as soon as you have a draft or anything, I would be very happy to read that.
Brilliant. That's great. Yeah, I will. I'll send that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll have another conversation.
Hopefully soon.
On a similar topic, probably. But until then, I'll see you later. Okay.